am more than my physical body. Because I am more than physical matter, I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world. I deeply desire to expand, to experience, to know, to understand, to control, to use such greater energies and energy systems as may be beneficial and constructive to me and to those who follow me. I deeply desire the help and cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of those individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience are equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or any source that might provide me with less than my stated desires.
Do not know all the answers to the questions about reality.
No.
Do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I am the void one.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting live from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void live here on Fringe FM, the YouTubes, on the YouTubes, and tune in and Live 365. It is Thursday, November the 21st, 2024. Getting closer to Turkey Day and closer to the end of the year. I did it again. I've been doing dumb stuff all week. No, all month. Just stupid stuff, man. So, first I fell asleep on the air, which is the dumbest thing I've ever did. I don't want to mention the second thing. And the third thing, I missed a step. Literally. I'm not just saying this as a metaphor. I missed a step. You guys ever done that? It's dark out there. I thought there was another step, and I took it, but there wasn't another step. So my knee buckled. And, of course, I smashed into the ground. That was fun. You know, that's when you know you're getting older, because usually I could recover from something like that. It would be a little wobble, and I'd stand up. No, this time just straight to the ground. I mean, right while the intro stuff was going on, too. So, yeah. Good times. All right, so... We're good. What's up? Let me say hi to whoever's in the chat. Who made it first? Susie. What's up, Susie? Domek, you're only 2 hours away, bro. Drive up. You can sleep in the shack. Nah, I don't blame you. Dutchy, what's up? Sir Wolf, what's up, brother? Ava. And I guess, yeah, the lurkers, whoever's lurking. So we're getting deeper into this Vera Stanley Alder text. And very opinionated person. Vera, right? More than likely we'll get through this book pretty quick because we're way over halfway through it. So we started out with the philosophy of what's going on, and then now we're getting into the deeper stuff, talking about the astral realm, the secrets of male and female, all the different cell salts, the Kundalini energy, and then now we're getting into the secrets of breathing. It gets really weird. I mean, it really does. Wait till she starts talking about the entities in the astral realm. 501-777-5631 is the phone line number. I'm not sure why the damn thing doesn't ring, but I'm trying to fix it, folks. I really am. So the secrets of breathing. So if we continue our study of the study of the phenomena of life, we can next consider the universal activity of breathing. Now, this is important, damn it. It's boring, but we do it every day. But there's a key to this. So it's a very strange process, indeed much more widespread than we would at first suppose. So we're told that the creation of the world begun when the Creator breathed upon the waters. And again, this is a symbolical explanation of the creation of man, which tells how he was formed out of dust into which he was breathed the breath of life. So the tremendous importance of the breath could hardly have been more definitely emphasized, but we've paid little attention to the invaluable hints bequeathed to us by those ancient savants and their veiled language. Before my grandmother died, too, I want to say, I would ask her, I remember asking her questions, jackass. Yeah. I remember asking her, we got to get rid of the dancing alien. The music's over. But when she had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, so I would ask her questions, things I'm like, aren't you scared? Things like that. She's like, no, I'm ready to go. And she would never talk to me about deep stuff at all. But this time she did. And I said, well, what do you think the soul is, Grandma? And I remember specifically her telling me that it's your breath. Who knew? It sounded true when she said it. I was like 20 years old, but... So we know that plants breathe, and lately have discovered that metals also breathe. And scientists are busy studying the long drawn-out rhythms of the sun. So if we apply to the mystics on this point, they tell us that the sun breathes regularly, in each breath taking 11 years and causing at its fullness the appearance of sunspots upon its surface. The sun is called the heart of the solar system. So we may suspect that it really is the heart of a very vast living being in whose breath we have our own breathing and living. So we're familiar with the main chemical aspects of the act of breathing as applied to ourselves. But primarily, we must contain a definite amount of air to counteract the law of gravitation which pulls us to the earth. At sea level, the pressure is about 16 pounds to the square inch, and this has to be equalized by the intake of air. That's why the lungs never empty all the air they contain. Their total capacity is said to be 250 cubic inches, but they only empty 150, so that there always remains 100 cubic inches of air within them. For this reason, if it is desired to clean and refresh the lungs, very prolonged outward breathing is the most effective method of doing this. Nature's way of refreshing us is to cause us to collapse limply into a chair and sigh out a long breath. You know how I figured out there was still air in your lungs? Because I used to do this stupid thing that we smokers do. It's kind of gross. But if you breathe out all your air and then you see that little puff that went up? You just push out a little more smoke and it's kind of gross. You got this lingering just smoke cloud in your lungs all the time. Not good. So in breathing, we absorb the oxygen from the air into our lungs to be used for the production of heat and energy through combustion. Remember, alchemy, the laboratories, the body, okay? So we absorb the oxygen from the air into our lungs to be used for the production of heat and energy through combustion with the substances contained in our food, and we exhale to us, poisons as carbonic acid gas. The animals breathe in the same way, but plants, on the other hand, need to breathe in the carbonic acid gas for their sustenance. So here we have one of the secrets of the give and take existing in nature and the reason why animals and plants could not live without each other. In a normal human being, there are approximately 16 to 18 breaths per minute, each taking in 30 cubic inches of air. Each breath consists of inhalation, exhalation, and a pause. The whole process taking up the time of 4 heartbeats. Our artificial methods of living have gradually ruined the natural quality of our breathing, and hardly 1 person in 50 breathes as naturally intended. The correct muscular action is as follows. The lungs are contained within the basket of the ribs, the whole resembling a balloon which inflates at the intake of breath and deflates at the exhaling. There is a muscle at the base of the lungs which should contract them upwards at the inhalation, but in most people the muscle is inactive. Many breathe downwards into their abdomen, pressing down the already sagging internal organs. In correct breathing, the whole chest is lifted at the intake of the breath, and this raises up all the internal organs from the stagnant position. And at the exhalation, the diaphragm muscle, aforementioned, contracts again upwards, dragging up still farther the organs below it. Correct breathing in this manner will, of course, exercise a continuous gentle massage and stimulation of the digestive organs, thereby ensuring perfect action of the alimentary canal and eliminating the need for pills and drugs. How in the hell does Vera know this stuff? What's up, Danny Durkee Diggler? What's up, man? Nice handle. How does Vera know this stuff? Show me how you breathe, and I will tell you what manner of man you are. This is why we do that 4-fold breath thing before, like you do any ceremonies or meditation. You do the box breathing. Intake for 4 count, hold, exhale for a 4 count, hold, intake, same. Just imagine a square as you're doing it. Figure out your rhythm and then just go. That's like the first beginning methods of balanced breathing, right? So the yogis and the Eastern sages make a very deep study of breathing and have evolved a profound science from it. By means of this science, they profess to accomplish many things, such as prolonging their youth and their years of living, and attaining to various degrees of trance. This is important, and clairvoyance, by means of which they gain access to knowledge. This science has been handed down from teacher to pupil for thousands of years and is only accessible to the possible for the very few, or too impossible for the very few. I don't know about that. We'll figure it out. But it is said to be a forerunner of the attainment of all humanity in the dim future. Certain it is that all who wish to obtain any degree of control of their health, characters, or circumstances must first begin at the very foundation of their lives, and that is their breathing. Having put in order the mechanical muscular action of breathing, the next thing to consider is the rhythm. We have now to realize that as not only physical things, but also thoughts, feelings, and various forces exist all around us by reason of their particular number or rate of vibration. So we're all the time tuning into this or that according to our own rate of vibration, which is adjusted by our breathing. We can think of ourselves as wireless receivers. And it's up to our ego or will to tune us in and decide what we shall receive. I have said that normally there are 16 to 18 breaths per minute. It is said that if the breathing is changed to about 26 light breaths per minute, it will be impossible after a short time to feel pain. I don't know if that's true or not. That is why in the heat of battle, terrible wounds can be received without feeling them at all. And it's also why many great feats are accomplished under the stress of excitement. The breath quickens, the blood heats up, and this drives the ego slightly out of the body, so that sensations are little felt. Extreme indulgence in alcohol has the same effect. That is why intoxicated persons seldom hurt themselves. We can do and suffer things in hot blood, which we can never do in cold blood. That's kind of true, too, when you get in a fight. Like, even if you try to stay calm when you get in a fight. I don't know how many of you guys have been in fights, but you realize it's nothing but flashes of white light and dull pain. It doesn't really matter how hard someone hits you unless they knock you out or unless they hit you in the nose or some weird spot. But usually it's just flashes of white light and dull pain that you don't feel till later. So, but I don't know if if this is all true or not. I don't really want to test it. But there's an interesting story in the Bible in connection with this. When Amalek drew the Israelites into battle, Moses went to the top of a hill. He held up his arms, using his great hypnotic powers to prevent the enemy from working themselves up to a fighting frenzy in which they would partly leave their bodies. He prevented them from quickening their breathing, and so they had to fight in cold blood and could not prevail. Directly, Moses dropped his arms from fatigue, and the battle would go against the Israelites. Martial music is designed to quicken the breath and the emotions. So is the color red on flags and uniforms. It's quite impossible to become excited if one breathes slowly. That's why a person in a rage is asked to stop and count to 10. The breathing inevitably slows down and the excitement drops. Some of the sages believe that we have a definite number of breaths allotted to us for our lives, and those who waste them and speed them up in excitability and emotionalism shorten their span. Those who become philosophers in the true sense of the word, balanced, measured, and contented, will be able to live to a very ripe old age with unimpaired faculties. By quickening the breath, the body loses its powers of self-protection and exhausts and injures itself without feeling it at the time. By slowing the breathing down to 10 or 12 per minute, it will be found impossible to feel excited, irritable, or nervy. And this is a useful and invisible little exercise with which we can protect ourselves from those states of mind which tend to poison our systems. If the breathing is reduced to a deep, slow rhythm of 10 beats per minute or 10 breaths per minute for 5 minutes, the brain will become marvelously clear and ready for work. You can do this before taking a nap. Or you can do this before taking up. I was thinking about a nap, and I just said a nap. So you can do this before taking up any study, the result lasting for some hours, and many of the conflicting vibrations and thoughts which we allow to pass just haphazard through our body and brain will have been canceled out by the rhythmic, powerful beat brought about by the slower breathing. If the breathing can be dropped to an even 3 per minute, all the bodily vibratory activities will become so subdued and harmonized that the more delicate psychic perceptions will be discernible, giving us what we call inspiration, instinct, or premonition, for they are the instigators of all great achievement. The above-mentioned rates of breathing can be used without danger, if practiced gradually and intelligently. But it is extremely dangerous for the average person to attempt any of the more complicated systems, sometimes unwisely given out, which might lead them into a mental home or worse. What about Wim Hof, right? Like, if Vera Stanley Alder's right, then what about Wim Hof? Because you have to really, it's almost like doing a whippet, where you're just breathing in and out so fast, you're about to pass out. I don't know. The breath is pretty important. Trance is important. I know that. And you can't breathe fast to get into a state of trance. Not that I'm aware of. Yogis can slow down the breath to 1 per minute, which allows them an intensity of concentration resulting in experiences beyond our imagination or comprehension. Finally, they're able to suspend the breathing altogether and allow themselves to be buried for weeks at a time without coming to any harm. Breathing must always be performed through the nose, quite silently, steadily, regularly, and without strain. It should preferably be practiced in a quiet place and not just after eating. While breathing, the mind should be focused on the highest ideals and aspirations. Remember that we are breathing in, besides oxygen, nitrogen, and hydrogen, a host of subtle and powerful elements and forces. It is the mind which subconsciously directs the selection and utilization of these powers. We breathe in life. We breathe in God, according to what we aspire. Slow, deep, gentle breathing will cure insomnia, nerves, blood pressure, fear, brain fog, and bad tempers. The Easterns apparently know many things about breathing with which the Western world is not yet familiar. They believe, for instance, that in correct breathing, only one nostril is actually used at a time, and this is said to be caused by tissues in each nostril. Really? This is said to be caused by tissues in each nostril which swell alternately at intervals, thus allowing full use of only one nostril. There are said to be two currents which pass up and down the spine, the one on the right side being positive and the one on the left side being negative. So the breathing, therefore, is performed alternately along an electrical current indrawing positive sun-ruled particles and a magnetic current indrawing negative moon-ruled particles. I think that should have been outdrawing, but whatever. It is said that by using this knowledge, the temperature of the body can be regulated. Astrologically, a sign comes up on the ascendant every 2 hours, alternately a positive and a negative sign, and this is connected with the breathing. It is said that Indian doctors always study the patient's breathing first of all, being in this way able to determine the condition of the magnetic and electrical areas in the body at the time. So apparently after a meal or during the changeover, both nostrils are used, so that it takes a little time to determine the exact state of affairs. An expert in these matters would, however, know the quality of his powers of achievement at any given hour, being thus able to ensure the maximum of creative output with the minimum of expended energy. Whereas all we know is that we are either in the mood to work or not, and this results in an indifferent and uneven output. The much discussed power of levitation, in which a yogi is said to be able to conquer the laws of gravity and rise in the air, appears to have a strong connection with breathing. Listen, that is one of the most things I'm super skeptical about. Thanks for the 20, Sherry. Very sweet of you. Thank you. Appreciate you. How lovely of you. So nice. So, has anybody ever seen anybody levitate? Ever? I haven't. I've heard people say, yeah, I levitated, or I saw someone levitate. Come on now. I'm not saying it's not real. I'm just levitating the physical body? Really? On Earth? I don't know. A simple little experiment will point this out, though. Man, I hope you got something good to say. Let me see. Hold on. 865 area code. Let me make sure you're... Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Joe.
What's up? Is this Cosmic? What's going on? What's up?
Anyways, long story short. So, this is Cosmic, by the way.
That's... what's up?
About 10 years ago, give or take, I had this experience. So you were mentioning something, I believe, 2 days ago, whatever the author was saying. Anyways, so I had just bought a new computer.
Yeah.
I was trying to just, play World of Warcraft and not pay attention to real life stuff. And the more that I tried to do that and just ignore everything, weird shit started happening around me, and reinforcing that I need to do something specific that I didn't want to do. But so to summarize, I kept having this urge to go outside. So I'd go outside. As soon as I went outside, it was like, okay, well, you need to project your consciousness to this place, and you need to be at a specific vibration. You need to give off this specific frequency at this time and this time and this time, and it kept going. But ultimately, I kept wanting to be a real or just, play a fucking video game and tune out of whatever's going on. And the more that I tried to do that, my dog just started throwing up that was sitting next to me, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Okay, well, I guess I have to go outside and listen to this thing that's telling me to do this. But it was just ultimately, I don't know if it was astral travel or It felt like that, but it was just like in an instant projecting my consciousness to Stonehenge, and it was like, okay, so I'm at Stonehenge now. Now there's these 3 beings that are there, and each one I have to emit a specific frequency to each one. And if I, pass the first 2 and then mess up the 3rd one, I got to go back to the first, and then it's just like a cyclical process. And it was extremely frustrating and confusing. But what she was talking about was the spirit traveling at the speed of light, or like faster than the speed of light, or whatever.
Yeah,
and,
yesterday is that what you're
it
talking
felt
about?
like I was.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so it felt like I never really left my body, but at the same time, I was simultaneously existing in this other place, working with these beings, so to speak. But it was just like specifically like frequency management, like projecting a certain vibration. And if it was too much love or not enough love or whatever, like a negative energy, but it wouldn't work, and it was like the program would restart, and I had to do it again. But I'm like, why am I here? Why am I doing all of this? And none of it made sense. Still doesn't. But
so were you sitting playing video games, and then it like you just left your body, or did you go outside?
I hadn't even started playing video games. I had just plugged everything up, or like plug the computer in, whatever, and was just trying to, I don't know, play a video game, and the computer wasn't working, like all of these things happening to essentially prevent me from doing that. And the more that I resisted it, or just wasn't paying attention, or acknowledging that the things that were happening were actual and they get me to do something or see something, the more intense that they got. And I was just like, I was staying at my parents' house at the time, and essentially I just kept walking back and forth, like inside, outside, by my mom, or she was sitting there and just like watching me like do all this stuff. And I'm like, she probably thinks I'm psychotic. And I was just like, I don't know what's happening to me, but there's something trying to communicate with me and like tell me to be at this place at this time and project this specific thing. And whenever I don't do it right, it's like, oh, well, okay, let's try again. And it just kept going. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why is this happening? Type of thing. But it felt like I was in 2 places at once.
Wow.
I guess.
That's crazy, man. I couldn't tell you what that was. You went to Stonehenge, huh?
That's where they wanted me to go, or whatever. I don't know. It was very bizarre, but that's where I was going and trying to project these certain energies for whatever reason.
Wow. Interesting, man. I couldn't tell you what that is. Let's keep us posted on what happens if that keeps happening, It's pretty trippy.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it's been 10 years. I thought about it, and I was just like, holy shit, it's been that long. Like, the last thing I'll say is my dad lives in Australia. I went there a few years ago to meet up with him and like kind of actually like meet him. My parents got a divorce when I was a kid, so I never really knew him. But his wife at the time bought me a plane ticket and passport and all that stuff and brought me over there, and it was awesome. But she just wanted to like travel around and show me different places and stuff. And we were driving one day on a highway, and I swear to God, I took a picture of it. It's on my Facebook, but there was a fucking crop circle, just happenstance, whatever, right next to where we pulled over. And I was just like, what the fuck is that? And climbed on the fence and took a picture of it. But I don't know. I've never really thought much about crop circles, but
me neither.
It was just another like, I don't know, clarification that everything's all right.
Right on.
Like, I don't know. I just stress out a lot, but it was just showing me something. But I just wanted to share that first experience, and then I thought about the crop circle. But yeah,
appreciate you sharing that with us, man. Pretty wild stuff.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for your call, brother.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Keep on reading.
All right. There goes Cosmic. Man. Yeah, I don't really know much about crop circles or any of that stuff. But if you go visit Australia, we've got listeners in Australia. Dan, Sudi, I think a couple of more from Australia, and Susie from Australia. Y'all should meet up, have an Australian get together. Let's get back into the breathing. Yeah, so you guys can call in and share your stories anytime here. We're not therapists or anything like that. I just want to hear people's strange stories, you know. So, where were we at? Talking about if breathing can be dropped to even 3 minutes or 3 per minute. Yeah. Let's see. So an expert in these matters would, however, know the quality of his powers of achievement at any given hour, being thus able to ensure the maximum of creative output with a minimum of expended energy. So all we know is that we're just in moods, according to Vera Stanley Alder. And those moods can happen based on our breathing. So I left off with levitation. That's what it was. I think Dan was asking, when you touch a power line, does that count? I guess that counts as levitation. So the much discussed power of levitation, in which a yogi said to be able to conquer the laws of gravity and rise into the air, that's supposed to have a connection with breathing. Let one person lie down straight and stiff on a couple of chairs. Let 4 persons stand round him, 1 at each shoulder and 1 at each knee, one placing a finger beneath their prone comrade. All must then breathe steadily and in unison for a minute or so. And then finally, after the intake of breath, raise the prone man into the air upon the tips of the fingers. He will seem to weigh nothing at all. Is that real? Have you guys tried that? Done the, light as a feather, stiff as a board thing? I've never tried that. Somebody should try that. I don't think that's real. Y'all let me know if that's ever happened with one of you guys, but maybe, I don't know. The Egyptians and earlier races could lift mighty stones by some agency which still puzzles scientists. Were they perhaps able to overcome the laws of gravity by concentrated scientific breathing on a large scale? If 4 people can lift, say, 12 stone without feeling it by breathing in unison, what could 1,000 people do? It's been found in some factories that the output of work is much improved by allowing the workers to sing. And after all that has been said about breathing, it will be realized at once what an enormous power for good singing could be if properly used and understood. There's no end to the benefit to be obtained by combining breathing, rhythm, and sound, as in singing. A person who is timid, cowardly, or shy narrows his chest and breathes feebly. Diseases such as asthma are probably the direct result of nervous breathing. If we are calm, confident, and courageous, we breathe deep and slow. As an aid to attaining these qualities, we must first correct our breathing, and everyone should breathe in the divine breath of life with all his heart and sing his song of thanksgiving no less regularly than do the birds. Yo, listen, man. All right, so breathing before you do any ceremony, right? Like if you're doing magic, ceremonial magic, before you do any of that, you should do some just basic rhythmic breathing for a while. I know Liam Thomas Christopher really talks deeply about breathing, and it's also one of the processes of alchemy that's supposedly hidden, because the body's the laboratory. But breathing is the one tool, actually, too, that we can let it go. So we can take it over or let it go. If we let it go, the subconscious does it, right? It just takes care of everything. We can tap into it and control the breathing. It's really, if you think about it, one of the only tools of the body that we can actually take control of what the subconscious is doing consciously and then give it back. So in a sense, and I should have said this to Trey when I was doing his reading the other night, but in a sense, when we start to do balanced breathing, we're initiating contact with that spirit world, with that subconscious, which is the portal to the spirit world or metaphysical world, whatever you want to call it. We know by tapping into the subconscious that we're communicating with that world, right? It's the same thing as like how the placebo works and all this kind of thing. But we don't have any other ways other than dreaming, which dreaming is like, that's just the subconscious speaking to us, and we're still at the mercy of it. Unless we become lucid, then we can, kind of do what we want. But breathing is the simplest way, long story short, to connect to our subconscious and then release it again, Yes, I get asthma as a reaction from allergies. It has nothing to do with how you breathe. Yeah, I don't know what Vera Stanley Alder's talking about here. I can't breathe bad to activate my asthma. Have you tried to breathe bad to activate it? Does nervousness and stress cause asthma too? Or is it just allergies? I don't know. The next chapter is called The Secrets of Color. Some poet has said color is not in the rose, but in ourselves. What is color? And previously we stated that out of the vast scale of nature's vibrations, a tiny octave is registered by the optic nerves. Our physical eyes respond to these particular vibrations with a reaction which we know is color. If we had no eyes, those vibrations would still exist. But as what? Think about that. All the colors would still exist as vibrations. If we had no eyes, we just couldn't see them. Medical scientists prove that different colors have definite and varied effects upon the nervous system, and that they act upon us quite independently of our eyes or minds. Their influence is particularly marked in the case of lunatics. It has been suggested that colors are really rays radiating down to this earth at their specific rates of vibration. A red rose reflects back all the color rays except red, which it absorbs. Our optic nerve reacts to its vibrations, and we say the rose is red. The perfect blending of the 7 color rays in the bright day gives us a white light. If the rays are split up by being passed through a glass prism, they are at once visible as colors. In the same way, a rainbow is produced by the minute prismatic effects of rain in the sky. If you walk around a fountain in the sun at a certain point, you'll see a rainbow. The color rays are pouring down on Earth night and day. Every object and every atom responds to them, thereby announcing its own quality to those who are able to decipher the language of colors. So where do these rays come from, and what are they? We have noted that the 7 major planets of our solar system are radiating their various forces outwards so that they reach this Earth at a considerable strength. As there are also 7 primary color rays radiating to the Earth, we must suspect a definite connection here and suggest that colors are really an expression of the planetary rays, observable by us as they are absorbed and held by different objects. But that's not proven. That's not proven. That the only way that you'll know that is just through, doing spiritual work. Eventually, you'll experience it. Finding of the Third Eye by Vera Stanley Alder. The planets are composed of minerals and chemicals, and in each planet, one particular metal is said by astrologists to predominate. In Mars, it's iron. And in Mercury, my computer almost shut down. In Mercury, this computer's on its last legs, man. One night, I'm not going to say it. And Mercury, it is that metal, just as radium, Mercury is mercury. Just as radium radiates off minute particles of itself for hundreds of years, so do these enormous planets radiate subtle emanations of their own chemical constituents and infinitely fine form. A human being also radiates subtle emanations of everything of which he is composed. A clairvoyant, or a person with sensitive sight, is able to see the colors of these rays at a certain angle and speaks of them as a person's aura. Let us name the colors in the order in which they appear in the spectrum. We take red first because it has the lowest vibration, being therefore the coarsest and the most physically vitalizing. Its place on the scale is just above the heat vibrations, and it is heat giving in itself. As the vibrations increase in speed up the scale, we come to orange, then to yellow, then green, blue, indigo, and violet. The violet leading us on up into the extraordinary, penetrating, and rapid vibrations of the ultraviolet ray. So let us see if we can connect up any of the information which astronomers, astrologers, and scientists give us about color in the planets. Astrologers tell us that the planetary color of Mars is red, and that Mars rules or has dynamic power over iron. Now, it is iron which is responsible for our red warm blood. Without it, we should have some sort of cold, pale liquid in our veins. Mars is the home of the god of war, giving a martial spirit to all those who, born under the sun, giving quick strength and force, vitality, power, and leadership. Go Aries. Leo, Sag, too. Don't forget about you guys, but Aries is really the best. If we suppose that the properties of this planet are to be found in its rays, which filter downwards and reach this earth as the color red, then we're not surprised when we find the effect upon the patience of red-colored electric lamps is to stimulate warm or excite and cheer, or to increase the activity of the arterial blood, to counteract physical inefficiency, paralysis, and rheumatism. That red glass windows have much the same effect, and also red walls and decorations to a lesser degree. By the same token, red should be avoided by those who contain too much iron or who are in any condition of heat or inflammation. Red-haired people, excitable lunatics, and bulls should be surrounded by cooler colors if peace is to prevail. Proceeding with our investigations, we find that red is the chief spectroscopic color in any herbs or medicines having a heating and stimulating effect, such as cayenne, cloves, or musk. Finally, we can turn to the discoveries of the famous Dr. Babbitt in chromatherapy, or healing with colors. He proved that plain water hung up in the sunlight in a sealed chromo lens of red glass becomes impregnated with certain chemicals in a powerfully healing form, the chief of which is iron. Such water, when swallowed, has apparently the same effect as an iron tonic. So, when using or thinking of the color red, bear in mind the following attributes which scientists or sages have connected. It is the color of Mars, whose stone is the ruby and whose metal is iron. It is the lowest of the 7 of the color scale, and it belongs to the lowest of the 7 notes in the musical scale, which is C. When C is played, certain sensitive people see the color red, and most martial music is in the key of C. Red, when predominating in herbs, colored lights, or glass and surroundings, gives warmth, increased circulation, vitality, and energy to the body, and cheerfulness, stimulation, and excitement to the spirit. The red flag has been used throughout history for incendiarism. Finally, if dark red is seen in the aura, it indicates passion and a fighting spirit. The second color in the spectrum is orange. This beautiful color is associated with the sun and has also a warming and invigorating effect. But whereas red is stimulating to the body and the blood, orange is stimulating to the emotions. It cures those states of paralysis which are often due to emotional reactions. It should be avoided by extremely emotional types who should acquire balance through its complementary color blue. Its note is D in the music scale, and melodies in that key have a strong emotional appeal. The metal belonging to the sun is gold, from which the alchemists believed they could obtain the elixir of life which rendered man immortal. Used as a medicine, gold has a very purifying effect. The third color in the spectrum is yellow, and we are told that this color belongs to the planet Mercury. Mercury confers a quick intellect by stimulating the nervous system. To be quick-witted, the nerves should be in an active condition throughout the body. I was thinking of the yellow in the Rider-Waite deck for some reason, because that corresponds to the element of air too. So nothing can remain stagnant under the beneficial influence of this planet. Wisdom is said to be conferred by Mercury in its color yellow. Therefore, Buddha always clothed his priests in yellow, which color has stood for wisdom and intellect throughout the ages. Yellow electric lamps or glass windows stimulate the nerves of the brain and the body and cure a stagnant condition of the internal organs. They should not be used for highly nervous subjects or people. We find that yellow predominates spectroscopically in all herbs which are purgatives or nerve stimulants such as senna, sulfur, fig juice, tartar, phosphorus, and castor oil. An extreme amount of yellow has a disastrously overstimulating effect upon the nerves, causing death, as with prussic acid, and strychnine, which are very yellow. Strychnine, which is very yellow. Strychnine? No, strychnine, man. That's what you make crappy acid with. You guys ever take acid that had the strychnine in it? You start to feel like a fighting chicken. You probably shouldn't take it. I think that's actually more PCP than it is LSD. Dr. Babbitt proved that plain water hung in the sunlight in a sealed lens of yellow glass becomes impregnated with the very nerve-emanating properties such as phosphorus and sodium, and that it will have a negative action if drunk, where possibly other drugs have failed. This lens must not be entirely filled, as it will absorb such highly expansive chemicals from the yellow rays that it would burst if full. It is interesting to learn that the water so treated goes bad in a few days. So yellow is the third of the color scale. It corresponds to the musical note of E. Its jewel is the yellow topaz, and it represents luminosity. When seen in the human aura, yellow, if dark and crude, it tells deceit, treachery, and cowardice. We have all heard of the yellow streak. But if pale, pure, and luminous, it shows high wisdom and intellectuality. Intellectuality. Why don't you just say intelligence? Intellectuality. That's not a word. I got a feeling if Vera Stanley Alder and I were playing Scrabble, I'd win. You should get negative points for using stuff. Is that a word? I was thinking of a tarot card there's a bunch of tarot cards that have yellow in it, but specifically when Vera's talking about deceit, I was thinking about this card. You ever see this one? Hold on. There it is. Can y'all see it? The Seven of Swords. Why is my green screen doing this? There it is, kind of. Yeah, Seven of Swords. Liar, deceitful, sneaky, some bitch. Rat. But, anyways. That's my ADD kicking in. Our fourth color is green, standing in the center of the scale of 7. It is the meeting ground between the thermal or heating and expanding colors of red, orange, and yellow, and the electrical contracting cooling colors of blue, indigo, and violet. Green gives stability, endurance, and quietude. We're allowed much of it to look at it in nature and to partake of as nourishment. Its action is to cool the blood and animate the nerves. It belongs to the planet Saturn, whose metal is lead. Saturn rules the spleen, which makes the white corpuscles of the blood, and these harmonize the building and destroying going on in the human organism. So people with the luminous green of Saturn in their auras are the harmonizers and pacifiers of the world. They stand for social stability, and if the green is dark and crude, it tells that its owner, so concerned with the affairs of others, has become green with envy. Green belongs to the fourth of the musical scale F, whose melodies, usually in a minor key, sing of the melancholy always associated with Saturn. Its stone is the emerald, which bestows peace of mind. Therefore, whether through lights, colored glass, or herbs, green gives an all-around steadying and quietening influence. The green flag and lamp represent safety and speak of the guardianship of those in authority. And we are told that on the planet Saturn live our guardian spirits. Now we leave the heating colors and pass upwards to the cooling, contracting ones, blue, indigo, and violet. These rays have a soothing, narcotic, and antiseptic action. They act as sedatives to the vascular and nervous systems, subdue mania and angry passions, inflammation, sunstroke, insomnia, eye strain, and all irritated conditions of the mind and body. Sedatives, antiseptics, and narcotics contain much of these colors. Narcotic flowers are blue and purple. Blackberries are valued for their astringent qualities. So blue belongs to the planet Venus, the giver of love, devotion, and harmony. Its stone is the amethyst, the super sacred of the 7 sacred jewels. Pale blue in the aura represents devotion, while dark blue shows fanaticism. One can either be true blue or have a fit of the blues, according to one's outlook. Dr. Babbitt says that blue lenses filled with water and exposed to sunlight become impregnated with chlorine, cobalt, and I guess is that magnesium or manganese? It's manganese. And other properties which have soothing and antiseptic actions. This water will never putrefy. It acts as a sedative and an antiseptic and is cooling, especially to the blood. The musical note of blue is G, and its favorite key is the favorite key for the composer of romantic music. Indigo is the 6th of the color scale. It is, like green, a meeting ground for all the colors. Its action through herbs and chemicals is intermediately between blue and violet, soothing both nerves and blood. Its planet is said to be Uranus, and its stone is jet. In the aura, it shows dignity and high aspirations. Violet is the 7th and last of the color octaves, and it represents the 7th and the highest quality which man attains, which is noble spiritual aspirations. Therefore, it always has been connected with the priestly ceremonies. Its musical note is B, in which key much sacred music is written. Its planet is Jupiter, ruling the metal tin and the jewel of the sapphire. In its medical action, it approaches the realm of the violet ray. It cools the nerves. It is magnetic and antiseptic. Violet lens water keeps indefinitely and greatly benefits the hair, the eyes, and the digestion. If you see violet in the aura, that speaks of honor, spirituality, and self-esteem. Above the violet, we begin a new octave of higher and more ethereal colors, mostly unseen to the average human eye. The first is rose, which is the red of Mars transmuted to its higher octave, where it speaks of optimism, hope, and spiritualized love. The colors continue in octaves which become more and more sublimated, luminous, pure, and pale, until the end they blend back again into the glorious white light from which they sprang. So when the character of a human being is sublimated and perfected, the colors of his aura also resolve themselves into a white, spiritual light. In the olden days, people were able to see this, and they represented it as the halo shining around the head of a saint. Colors, therefore, are of the very deepest significance to us throughout all phases of our life. They have more influence upon us than we can possibly imagine. If we can use them intelligently, they are the greatest of friends, strengthening, soothing, and inspiring. Dark, drab, and dingy colors harm our spirits, morals, and health. They encourage crime, inhibitions, inferiority complexes, suicide, and stunted development. They actually prevent the radiation of personal magnetism, the give and take between human beings, too. They inhibit optimism, inspiration, and therefore success. So at a glance, if you glance at some of our streets with their dingy, dark bricks and shrieking posters, will at once show us one reason why apathy, dullness, and poor health are still prevalent. Brown is the color of the earth and holds us to the earth and to material thoughts. Gray is neutral and useful as a background to other colors. White reflects back all the rays and is therefore cooling and restful. Black absorbs them all and is therefore warm, although neutralized. The modern trend towards plain, pale pastel shades shows us a promising awakening to a new and uplifting color sense. A color campaign intelligently launched would do much to cheer, inspire, and invigorate humanity. There's more secrets to colors than that, though. Thanks for the sub, James Hadaway. Like, if I would definitely look into the flashing colors of the Golden Dawn too, but it is true that colors are frequencies, though. That's a fact. And if you look into the work of Dr. Babbitt, where he put water in colored vessels and stuff, that's pretty damn interesting too. But I don't think any of this stuff, I don't know, is so-called facts without experimentation. You should experiment with yourself. Look, we got to take the break so we can pay for the music licensing on the station. We got 3, maybe 4 minutes here. Grab a drink, a smoke, a coffee, take a leak, chat it up in the chat room, whatever you got to do. When we come back, Vera Stanley Alder is going to talk about the secret of sound. We did breathing, colors, sound. We're going to do sound. Stay with us.
Hey Joe Root, thanks for lighting the void. This is Janine in the bluegrass of Kentucky, and I am a void walker.
What's up, guys? This is Damien from San Marcos, Texas, and I'm a void walker. I listen to the show to keep myself aligned with the world.
Hi, this is Laura, aka Laura Lavender. I'm from Las Vegas, and I listen to Lighting the Void because it helps me understand some of the strangest experiences I've had. So thanks for all that you do and for always being there for us, Joe.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
"Hey, you got this. Just breathe." Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
My mother was always very active and independent, and she was familiar with her neighborhood. But one day, she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. She wasn't even really sure where she was at.
It's important for you to talk to someone about it. I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, we'll figure it out.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more.
Have you ever wondered, what do the stars say for me? Or will the next month or the next year be more favorable? How about, are our two signs compatible? Each month at the new moon, you can ask these questions live with me, your astrologer psychic, Mary DeCina, along with host of Lighting the Void, Joe Root. Join us at the new moon for Cosmic Conditions. We look forward to working with your energy.
Every new moon at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
I wouldn't make it a habit calling me that, son.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. We are into the text, Vera Stanley Alder, The Finding of the Third Eye. And we are at Chapter 10, The Secrets of Sound. Well, definitely keep in mind that this book was written in 1968. All right, so The Secrets of Sound. Some of this stuff you'll have heard before, but in the beginning was the Word. Thus is the importance of sound emphasized to us, although so simply and directly that it's easy to miss its significance. The universe was created by speech. The Creator did not act. He spoke. He said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Let us not pass over these words with a shrug as if they were charming fairy tales designed to enthrall the native peoples of old. They kind of are, though. Just saying. The deepest scientific knowledge of all times was always thus veiled by symbolism and by myth. Yeah, well, I'm sure that's hard to tell people sometimes, though, you know. And rich is the reward of every effort at these interpretations of these things. So certain of the ancient peoples made a profound study of chemistry. The fact that they chose to give to their chemicals the names of gods and goddesses and to describe their reactions under the guise of myths and legends does not in the least detract from their actual knowledge. But on the contrary, it may show how much deeper and further they penetrated into the realms of ultimate causes than men of science do today. We're told by those teachers of antiquity that the formation of this universe out of chaos was brought about by the breath and the word of the Creator, or by sound. Certain sounds produced differing sets of vibrations in the ether, and some of these were of such low frequency that they formed particles of what we call matter or physical substance. They could not be light as we know it without minute specks of matter in the ether to reflect it. But that's kind of true if you think about it from the light that we understand. So we learned that later these particles of matter collided, coalesced and forced of their mutual attractions or gravity, causing them to commence into spinning. The endless arrangements thus formed and produced the solar system and all that's in it. We can gain an idea of the infinite number of these arrangements by considering the vast scale of vibrations which we talked about in earlier chapters. The little sections of oscillations on the scale to which the ear can react and which we know as sound are of comparatively low frequency. They occur below the heat vibrations. A vibration of 16 per second gives the lowest note heard by the human ear, and the scale of sound runs up to nearly 40,000 vibrations per second. This speed is the highest which we can register as sound. Higher up on the scale, vibrating at about 70 million times per second, begin the vibrations which we know as heat, and to which the heat centers in our skin react. Above those come the light and color vibrations, and above those are the X-rays and the subtle vibrations of the mind. Below the sound vibrations comes those of chemical substances which make up the physical world. So it is said that the whole scale of vibration is divided up into octaves of 7. Each octave is a replica of the others, only functioning at a doubled or tripled or trebled speed of vibration. Thus, merely as a simile, supposing the first note of the octave C to vibrate at 20 per second, we might find that a certain number of octaves lower down, the vibration of the first note of an octave at, say, perhaps 20 per minute, would be apparent to us, for instance, as the metal iron. The first note of an octave, several hundred times higher up on the scale, would be apparent to us as the color red, and far higher up still as the emotion of anger or passion. All these different expressions of one note or vibration, as well as many others in between, are ruled, controlled, or emanated from the planet Mars according to certain schools of thought and express the good and bad qualities which are associated with that planet. So by studying such theories, we can realize the intimate connection between sound and all other expressions of life. Sound is low down on the scale and comes just above form. Therefore, sound is the intermediary between the abstract idea and the concrete form. Sounds mold the ether into shapes, and through these shapes are corresponding powers which is able to play and make its impressions upon physical matter. The clairvoyant primitive peoples actually saw the shapes produced in the ether by sounds. They represented these shapes as the letters of their alphabet. So most words and sounds of early languages actually controlled and represented that which they expressed. When those people called on the god Ra, they established a connection just as definitely as we do when we tune into our wireless to Paris or London. Throughout history, we can learn of the deliberate and effective use of sound. Priests have always employed it, creating certain definite reactions on the people by use of chanting and intoning. In the ancient mysteries and magical ceremonial rites, words, sounds, and shapes were combined to gain certain ends, and each one of us is intensely affected by sound waves, which of course pass right through our bodies. Every object and every person has a keynote. In other words, the sum of their vibrations responds to one particular note or chord of the musical scale. If a person's note or chord is sounded gently and melodiously, that's another word you made up, Vera, it has a healing and constructive influence upon him. If it is sounded loudly, harshly, and continuously, it has a correspondingly destructive influence, making that person ill or unhappy. If you can discover the note belonging to a particular wine glass and sound it loudly into the glass for a little while, you will shatter the glass to pieces. It is said that the walls of Jericho fell because of the same law, as the keynote of the wall was purposely sounded with continuous harshness by the trumpets under the instructions of someone with a knowledge not uncommon in those days. An instrument has lately been invented called the ediophone or idophone. It contains a tightly stretched drum surface upon which a paste is spread. sounds and words are then uttered underneath this drum, and they cause beautiful shapes to form in the paste, exact replicas of trees, ferns, and flowers, as they are in nature. If sand is spread on the drum instead of paste, the sounds will produce geometrical shapes instead of plant forms. It is eventually said that ugly and obscene words will produce ugly and displeasing patterns, and also the reverse. This experiment proves the creative aspect of sound and helps us to visualize the definite forms and radiation set up in the ether by our own words. The sounds with which we are surrounded by in present-day city life are mostly harsh, monotonous, and unbeautiful. If the roar of the traffic were suddenly to cease as we walk down the streets, we should find that we had been screaming discordantly at our companion to make ourselves heard. What about club life, though? You know, like when people go to raves and stuff, that stuff's not too harsh. Our pleasures also are mostly crudely noisy. At the average cocktail party, everyone shouts at once. The hostess is disappointed if it's not so, while some of the dance music is harsh beyond words. Tube, train, and bus all add their quota to the barrage of hideous noise which we have to endure. People who are obliged to listen day after day to sounds which are a discordant offense to nature's laws will inevitably become sick or depleted, and soon be suffering from one of those innumerable nerve complaints which are the order of the day. You think that's real, man? Do you think like people are like, oh, I can't stand it anymore? You know, like the freaking trains, they're causing me to have a nervous breakdown. The only way to counteract these bad effects would be by healing the damaged nerve centers with soothing harmonies or with the blessed balm of complete silence for a short period of time. If a person is able to discover his own keynote or chord and to play it over gently to himself, he'll revive as if by magic. One's keynote can be ascertained by listening to some good orchestral music. When the note is played, it will send a thrill right through its owner. If a person's life is in some way inharmonious or destructive, this can be detected at once in his voice, which will often jar upon the listener's nerves, whereas one who is living in accordance with his divine law will have a melodious, pleasing voice. The more advanced type of people have resonant voices, while primitive types have flat chest voices, such as are heard among natives, gypsies, and the Apaches of Paris. Oh boy. Guys, hold on a second. I got a bit of an emergency I got to take care of. Just a second. Be right back. What's wrong? What's the matter? What's wrong? Okay, I'm back here. Well, that could have got bad. The cat got out. Cat never gets out. That's not a good thing. I ain't got the stamina. I can't run. You know what I mean? I used to could run like the wind. Where did I leave off? All right. So people who are obliged to listen to crappy noise all day that could cause depression, depletion, and nerve stuff. So the only way to counteract these bad effects would be by healing the damaged nerve centers with soothing harmonies or with the blessed balm of complete silence. And then if you can discover your own keynote or chord, you can heal yourself. If a person's life is in some way inharmonious or destructive, this can be detected at once in his voice. Talked about that. So the creative use of sound can be observed on all sides. The baby cries to promote its own growth, and until the little one has uttered its first cry, its progress is not assured. It is said that the birds set up the vibrations which promote the growth of the young leaves by their singing in the early spring. When the leaves are full out, the bird's songs cease except at twilight and at dawn, at which times the chemical activities of the plant life change. At night, plant life breathes out carbon dioxide, although during the day it breathes out oxygen. The times of the change over are heralded by the birds. The ancient Japanese mystics, such as the Zen monks, were said to be able to bring the dead or dying back to life by uttering a certain loud cry. That sound right there. See, that proves it right there. I swear to God, that was weird. I didn't hit shit. But call that a synchronicity, because my nerves just shot up like that. Here, let me turn it down. Let me turn this down so you can see what that was. That wasn't a pleasant sound at all. Did that make you have a nervous condition? It did me. And for those of y'all that fall asleep to the show, I apologize. I swear to God, I didn't hit anything. It's just been a weird night. I fell down, the cat got out. Now that happened. All right. So an interesting description of this can be found in the novel The Garden of Vision. Some people assert that in order to connect ourselves with power and wisdom, we should go apart to a quiet place and call our own Christian name over and over very gently. I'm going to try that. I don't know why, but I want to try that. Uttering a noun or name creates a form in the ether which acts as a receiving station to certain powers which then play through it. Tennyson declared that he could leave his own body consciously and gain much experience by calling his own name. He describes this in The Ancient Sage. The potent action of sound has always been recognized and applied throughout history, but at the present time, a stringent tackling of the sound problem is urgently needed. An anti-noise campaign is actually in existence, but its efforts are not much in evidence as yet and have not received the wholehearted public support which they deserve. I haven't heard of any of this stuff. The medical profession is experimenting with the healing properties of sound, but it's up to every individual to take a personal interest in this vital problem and all the infinite possibilities connected with it. Those who really wish to get the best out of life should shun inharmonious noises and all superfluous chatter. They should feed their spirit nerves with music. They should sing often, aiming more at rhythm and resonance than at loudness and high notes. They should study the tones of their own speaking voices to gain an insight into their own characters. They should watch and guard their own words, remembering that in speaking, they are building definite forms for good and for evil, which will persist in the ether, connecting their own or their owner permanently with good or evil influences and attracting him to much that he may ignorantly consider he has not deserved. Oh, think about that. Lastly, they should remember that, as all the sages and wise ones are aware, the greatest inspiration and wisdom has been bestowed upon humanity during periods of profound and complete silence. Damn, I can't speak tonight. Oh, yeah, classical. I was thinking of the same thing, Will. What the hell's the alien doing up here again? So even like that channel, what is it? The Gnostic channel, the radio channel. They have they play classical music all the time, and it's awesome. And it does give a good calming effect. Matter of fact, now that you mention it, when I was driving back from Texas, I started getting anxiety because sometimes on long trips I get anxious just because I just want to be there, and I'm a long ways away from where I'm going, so there's nothing to do, and it's kind of like you feel trapped in between where you are and where you want to go. Hard to explain. I get anxious, and I turned on the classical station, and it took it away. I did that actually. All right, so we're going to get into the science of numbers, but all of this is going to add up when Vera starts talking about the third eye in the astral realm. So the world is built upon thousands of differing rates of vibration, and all these having their origin in the one original vibration of the mind of the creator, or the sum, essence, or single number of the whole. We learn from the ancient teachings that the one original mighty creative power, wishing to make further manifestations and to exercise his creative ability for a purpose which it is beyond us to understand at present, divided himself by the power of the word into three, thus forming the great triangle which originated life and action as we know it. The triangle, known as Father, Mother, Sun, or positive negative combustion, or mercury, sulfur, salt, as we have seen, has always been studied all over the world. You know, I can show this too on the tree, right? Like, let me see if I can get my little drawy stick out here. So the white sphere of energy at the top is like Kether, right? So you have source, and then supposedly, let me make this black. Yeah. So you have source, and then it makes like from 0 to 1, which is that, or that's 1 to 2, I guess. Yeah. And then you have, so that's father, then to mother. And then you have the first triad, right? That's the way it's supposed to be. The great king and queen, or the source, the father, the mother, or the source, then alpha and omega. And then it reflects upon itself in the next triangle and makes the Christ force, so to speak, which is the sun. Right, which that yellow sphere actually in Hermetic Kabbalah represents the sun, or Tiferet. There's a whole freaking story on this tree, but that's Western mysticism, not Eastern mysticism. Whatever. And that's numbers 1 through 10, remember, too, there. 1 at the top, 10 at the bottom being Earth, or Malkuth. Man. So, the triangle known as Father, Mother, Sun, or positive negative combustion, or mercury, sulfur, salt, as we have seen, has always been studied all over the world. We begin, therefore, in the science with the number 1, the creator, who divides this into 3 in the acts of creating. The scientist will describe this formation as polarity. As Schopenhauer put it, polarity, or the sundering of a force into 2 quantitatively different and opposed activities, striving after reunion. This is a fundamental type of almost all the phenomena of nature, from the magnet and the crystal to man himself. The Hindus describe this as Brahma, that the world might be born, fell asunder into man and woman, became name and form, and time and space. In further definition of the origin of this solar system, we are told that the Creator, a great white light, divided into 3, red, yellow, and blue. The primary colors, which correspond with the primary notes of the scale, C, E, and G. And after the division into 3, the second great division into 7 took place, and the 7 spirits before the throne, inhabiting the 7 sacred planets of the solar system, came into being. From them radiated the 7 colors of the spectrum, and there are also the 7 notes of music, the 7 planes of matter, the 7 days of the week, the 7 ages of man and his 7 glands. In fact, as we have seen, the tremendous scale of nature's vibrations run in an infinitely of octaves of 7. In history, we can trace man's appreciation of the significance of the number 7 when we think of the 7 days of creation, or the 7 cardinal virtues, or the 7 deadly sins, or the 7 wonders of the world, or how about the 7 towers of Constantinople, or the 7 hills of Rome, or what about the 7 plagues of Egypt, or how about the 7-branch candlestick, and even the 7-league boots? 7, therefore, is the number of the conditions of man's physical existence upon the earth, as it is present. But humanity is imperfect, unfinished, unevolved, so 7 is not the final number. Mankind, as well as all of nature, is to rise out of the imperfect state, to become complete and creative, and to develop the full quota of qualities and capacities which run up to the finished number of 12. To this end, man has to evolve under the discipline of the 12 signs of the zodiac as described in chapter 5. These signs circle round the sun and represent the 12 great lessons and qualities of living. We therefore find the number 12 playing a significant part in nature also, as well as in mythology and history. We can at once call to mind such divisions as the 12 hours of the day and the 12 months of the year. There are also 12 sons of Jacob, symbolizing the climax of a past period, and the 12 apostles representing the climax of the present era. The 12 tribes of Israel that correspond to the 12 sons of Jacob. When humanity has taken its degree in the school of earthly life and graduated through all the 12 great tests, becoming thereby master of itself, all conditions, and therefore creative, it will turn back to the Father, as in the tale of the prodigal son. It has exhausted the possibilities of matter, has realized the illusion of the infinite divisions of nature, and retraces its steps back to the one original great white light of omniscience. Man has become one in understanding with the Creator. The further we go back in history, the more profound seems the understanding of these definitions of life. The ancients arrived at the deep knowledge of astronomy, astrology, and world history without apparently possessing any of our instruments of science. We're told that they obtained this knowledge through the subtler senses by meditation. They discovered many things about the formation, quality, and meaning of the universe which could not be expressed in words, but only in numbers and symbols, and many of the vital truths of life are still only to be found in this way. Numbers and symbols play a very large part in all the Bibles and sacred writings of the ancients, and we should gain such or much by being able to decipher them. Everyone who was allowed to study the mysteries with the learned priesthood of Egypt and Chaldea was initiated into the meanings of numbers and symbols. It is said that first Moses, then Jesus, studied in this way. Pythagoras studied thus with the priests for 25 years in Memphis, Thebes, and Babylon, and as a result found his famous school of philosophy. He called his pupils mathematicians, and he said God geometrizes. He studied the numerical relationships of all the phenomena of the universe and was able to finally classify and sum them up. Numbers ruled nature, not only in the classification of objects, but in periods of time. The moon plays a large part in this, moving in periods of 4 weeks or 4 sevens, ruling woman also in these cycles, and governing the tides and seasons, fertility and growth. The moon also passes through one of the zodiacal signs every 2 hours. The earth herself, moving on a grander scale, passes through one of the great zodiacal signs about every 2,500 years. Certain influences are therefore radiated down to the earth by the moon, in miniature changing every 2 hours, and by the sun in magnitude changing about every 2,500 years. The scientist or astrologer who can decipher the lesser influence can be sure of the greater one. It was in this way that the ancient peoples were able to prophesy the trends of civilization and races 2,000 or 200,000 years ahead of time. Much of this knowledge is wrapped up in the mistranslated symbolism of the Book of Revelations. It is therefore apparent that one way of learning many of the secret processes at work in the universe and in our own natures lies in the understanding of numbers and symbols. To do this, we must study the output of those early peoples and understand the foundation and origin of their knowledge and the way in which they were able to tap the universal mind. If a doctor, knowing the periods of crisis and the duration of a certain disease, were to tell a company of the microbes just what would happen to them in 3 days' time, that would seem an impossible and wonderful feat of prophecy to the microbes. And as they only live for a few minutes to a few hours, the prophecy would apply to their far distant descendants in the dim future. If, however, the microbes themselves could train their mentalities, and science now has proved that even a cell or a microbe has a mentality, they could obtain telepathic contact with the mind of the doctor and themselves discover his ideas and knowledge of their future development. What a crazy analogy that was, right? Holy hell. Yeah, if a doctor could speak to the microbes. So mankind may be said to bear an analogous position to the microbes. We're little more than microbes upon the body of a great being, which body we call the earth. And just as we depend for our future health, comfort, peace, and the development even of our wisdom upon the well-being and cooperation of the cells in our body, so we may imagine does the being depend upon us for his own progress, and in helping ourselves, we help him. If we make progress, he is possibly just as grateful to us as we are to our own hands, eyes, or brain, as they improve in their capacity to serve us well. So having visualized man as a microbe upon the living body of the earth, let us go further. The sun is called the heart of the universe. Why? Because we are told it is the great heart, or the heart of a being too vast for us to conceive of, and in whose structure our earth plays the part of a gland or an organ. The gigantic being is he whom some of us call God, just as we ourselves are a vast, inscrutable, all-knowing God to the little creatures whom we know as the cells of our own bodies. In all reverence, we might try also to realize that the glorious being whose heart is the sun may also be worshiping and striving to reach a still mightier God, even further from our power to comprehend. So life repeats up and down the scale of size, forward and backwards upon the scale of time, periods and cycles. It is only by having the clue to the octaves and their numbers that we are able to link up and connect and interpret the manifold different expressions of the few fundamental qualities of evolving creation. The hidden truth constitutes some of the mysteries which the initiates and adepts are able to reach one by one as they graduate upwards through the school of life, taking one initiation after another. In olden days, certain people were carefully selected to be trained to this end, and in the temples, although now the road is open to all. Those early scholars realized that certain sounds linked them up with certain creative principles in nature, and that every sound and quality had its number, which was the sum total of its vibrations. The science of numbers, or numerology, has, like much of the ancient knowledge, become, through disuse, misunderstood, and debased to the rank of superstition. It is only used now from the limited personal viewpoint, but even so it can be both interesting and helpful. It's said that before birth we are drawn to our names and birth dates and parents by an irresistible affinity with those vibrations which compose our own characters and aspirations, and that a numerologist, by studying the former, is able to tell us what we are and wherein lie our potentiality, our hopes and our hazards. Each letter and date represent a number. The right reading of these numbers will describe our character and type of life, and each number represents a planet, color, quality and experience, and either its good, bad, or negative aspect. We can map out the life according to the relation in which all its numbers are standing to each other. Those who believe in this science declare that it is extremely useful in the choosing of vocations and partnerships, and that with its help, the handicap of incompatibility can be avoided. I don't know about that, though. Like everything else, it must be used with moderation and common sense, and not in a spirit of idle superstition. The famous American physician Dr. Abrams invented an apparatus which measures the vibrations of all the reactions of the human body. He ascertained that every disease has its own numerical value, and that the cure can also be determined by the means of the numbers. Much, of course, has to be learned and proved about this science, but here again, the fundamental importance of a number is brought to light. The meanings of the primary numbers have been described throughout the ages as follows. Finally, get down to it. The number 1 represents the first necessary qualities of evolving life: the pioneer, fighting spirit, leadership, and force. A person born on the 1st of any month will be given chances to exercise these qualities. I was born on April the 1st. Damn it. The number 2 represents the second stage in man's developing nature, sociability, and includes affection and all the give and take qualities such as diplomacy and homemaking. The number 3 represents self-expression. Man has fought and made friends. Now he wants to give entertainment, beauty, and joy. People with this birth date should not be expected to be very orderly or reliable. The number 4 stands for the solid framework of life, the foundations. People attuned to this number will be called the backbone of the country. They are the patient, reliable plotters. The number 5 represents the 5 senses, experience. It gives travel, variety, and drama to life and progress. The number 6 represents family life, but on a much broader scale than the retiring number, 2. 6 stands for guardianship, when a man begins to sense his higher destiny and responsibilities, to care for all families as well as his own, and to offer worldwide hospitality and help. The number 7 represents the final turning of a man inwards to the spiritual life, to the study of science and truths, discipline, and organization. It is the number of loneliness, too. The number 8, man having found his own soul and the power within him, must turn to earth life once more and learn to combine the two. So 8 gives power, organization, and constructive leadership backed by spiritual inspiration. The number 9 represents the perfect and completed man, who having fully developed himself must now forget himself in sacrifice and service. Here we have the great lover, humanitarian, and artist, and through this number beats the most high-powered of human vibrations, which has great force to be used for either good or evil. To write all that is known about numbers would fill volumes. We have not the space to do more than take this glance at the primary numbers, but they, of course, each belong to their color, planet, and sound. When after some study it is seen how completely all these facets of life dovetail and fit into their places like an intricate vast Chinese puzzle, and it will be realized that these marvelous theories are too perfect and too near to the truth to have been invented by the brains of human beings. This indeed is the reward of a study of these matters, a gradual realization of the amazing fact that there really is a whole universe of marvels and of sublime promise for those who seek it. The science of numbers is exhaustive, instructive, and useful if applied with an honest desire for progress and understanding. Modern scientists are busily expressing the ancient beliefs in their own manner. They are measuring the vibrations of diseases, of thoughts, of willpower, and of many other activities and getting them all numbered. They are numerologists in their own way, although they still turn their backs rigidly upon the ancient sciences. Nevertheless, they are bringing to light one fundamental fact, and that is that everything exists through the formation of a different number, and therefore that numbers must constitute a language, a key, and a clue to many secrets in life if we can learn to decipher them. There are various systems of numerology. The sifting of the true form or the false will do much to develop the student's own powers of deciphering numbers. Man, I got to say this, though. Mom's born April the 1st. Yeah. Like that whole numerology thing, to me, the coolest thing about numbers corresponds to honestly, to the tree of life and to the ancient Hebrew system of the number 10 and perfection and stuff like that. They're like, if you really study sacred geometry and like sacred numbers, I guess you could say, in sacred geometry, it does get interesting. But classifying people to a number, to me, is almost, this is just my opinion, but to me, it's almost the same as classifying people to a sign of the zodiac. I mean, we're all Aries, you know, I know 4 or 5 different Aries, but we're all different people. And when you look at the charts, right, it's super complicated. Different planets and different signs and different houses, and then they all have different relationships or energies to each other. Some are square, some are conjunct, some are trines. And even then, like, just being honest with you, even then, picking all of that apart sometimes doesn't seem totally correct. Now, if you get into different schools of like astrology and numerology, some of it starts to make more sense. For instance, Stephen Forrest's school of astrology, of like evolutionary astrology, makes a ton of sense to me, more than any other school of astrology does to me. And when it comes to numerology, you know, basic gematria without trying to decipher every little thing, and the numbers of the energies on the tree of life, that stuff makes sense to me. And how the numbers correspond in sacred geometry really makes sense. And in mathematics, it's amazing. Actually, even in programming and computation, it's amazing. So, but when we start to say, well, I'm a number 1, or I'm a number 2, or I'm a number 7, I honestly think that for some reason, we want to classify ourselves, and I think we do that. I'm probably going to get shot for saying this, but I think that we classify ourselves for different psychological reasons that's based in fear of not knowing ourselves and what this is all about. So it's easier to classify ourselves. But I'm not saying that these astrological energies don't influence us, that the planets don't influence us. I think they do. I definitely think they do. I'm not saying numbers and geometry and sound doesn't influence us. It definitely does. It's a part of life. But I don't understand why, in the sacred wisdom, so to speak, that we all have to be in a category to better understand ourselves. It just doesn't make sense to me. I guess the next one is diet and exercise, but that one goes without. I mean, do we really have to read that? Like, we know that's really gonna help us. So the next part of the book is all about the third eye. So that was all like the philosophies of the wisdom. So this is part 2 that we're about to get into. The third eye, the steps to mastery, meditation. It gets into the astral realm too. It gets really trippy. The history of wisdom. Dangers in the path. And then when she starts talking about all the beings in the astral realm, it gets kind of wild. But I think it's really cool to get into this stuff, to be reminded of what the so-called ancient wisdom teaches us. But then again, like, guys, these are all just tools. Will C says, I don't take the numbers too seriously, but a lot of times they fit well to people. Bryce says, I think we classify ourselves as to identify with a group, or could be fear of rejection. Yeah, I think it could be both, man. Like, it's like, well, I'm an Aries. Well, a lot of people use that as an excuse to not grow and keep being an asshole, Or people say, well, I'm a Taurus, so that's just the way I am. And it's like, what the hell are you here for if you don't want to grow? My point is that I think sometimes we want to, I don't know how to say this without sounding like an asshole. Let me say this, okay? So we're all very special beings. We're all have more power inside of us than we're aware of. The imagination being one of them, which was taken away from us when we were a child because we was told that it was a fake place. It's not fake. But we're all special. But I think that we do that to better understand ourselves and to feel special in some kind of way. It's the same reason why when people grow up, they join groups or clubs or cliques. It's just in our nature. We're tribal. So when someone says, hey, you're this kind of person, you belong to this tribe, not only does it help you understand yourself, it makes you feel like you were put here for a reason and that you're not alone too. And it gives you excuses to be certain ways. But if you really picked apart your chart, you're not your sun sign is just the sun energy part of you. You're so complex and complicated that there's no way to classify it. Bryce says, you might have been an Aries the day you were born, but today's a different day. Yeah. So, I think that, honestly, I think that man is on to something. I think the ancient wisdom isn't like ultimate truth, but I think that just like as we evolve as humans, that we're on to something. We're definitely on to something with sacred geometry. Definitely. We're on to something. But when we teach certain things as like ultimate truth, I think we lose finding that truth. The same thing with astrologies and why the stars and planets are. We're on to something. We've taken record of what happens when certain alignments happen. We can't measure the energies, but we've definitely taken records of what happens during certain alignments for thousands of years. So we're on to something. We're on to that influence. But do we really know that the constellations of all these different stars are affecting us in a certain way, or do we just believe that? Because if we believe it enough, then it becomes true, too. It really does. I'll give you an example. So when I look at my Western astrology, it makes a lot of sense. Some of it don't, but most of it does, especially how I interact with people. But then when I look at my Eastern or sidereal astrology, that kind of shows the soul challenges I've had in my life, or the soul growth for me. I don't know about anybody else. And still, both charts are a little off, just a little off. And I've picked them apart. The elements are the things that are true in there for sure. Like my temperament and the elements, or the elemental nature, I have found that to be the truest thing in charts, but it's still a little off, which means just like anything that we're trying to figure out, we're probably so close to understanding what's really going on. So I feel that when we call something ancient wisdom or ancient truth, it may not be the ultimate truth, but we're on to something. All of the solids that Pythagoras figured out, he was definitely on to something, When we get out of body and we have out of body experiences, to me, that is the best place to learn. If you want to see how your spirit works to manifest things, if you do magic, that's the best place to experience it and have the wisdom that something else is there, But But the out-of-body experience is the best place to learn for me. Just for me it is. Because when you're exploring consciousness and you can go to all these places and supposedly you can ask all these questions and find all these answers. And yet everybody is having massively different experiences. Not the techniques of getting out of body, but what happens when they get out of body. There's very few common parallels other than what it feels like or looks like. But where people go and what they do, there's still, in my opinion, a lot to be explored. But I like going over what the ancient wisdom, quote, the ancient wisdom is because at the very least, man, they're definitely on to a deeper truth, close to one. The cycles of the ages, or, figuring out that everything is working in cycles in the universe and in nature, universally and cosmically and anatomically, and as far as like the smallest atoms. Like, that's cool to know that things work in cycles. That gives me some comfort, for some weird reason. Anyways, I appreciate you guys listening this week. The next tarot video that we'll be doing, I believe, is the Death card. For those of you that watch the tarot series, we get really deep into the meanings of the cards and stuff, and we're going through the arcana right now. So if you're interested in that, check that out. If you like the broadcast, if you find anything of value for it, please support the broadcast. And if you have supported, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's been a weird week. But I'll see you guys in the Discord, see the guys in Patreon, see you guys on the YouTube. If you join the YouTube channel, I got some stuff I'm going to be posting in there for you too. And all of everybody that's waiting on their orders, there's about 3 or 4 of you still. It is on the way. Patience is a virtue. I love each and every one of you. Night, night, sweet dreams, all that good stuff. Kisses. I don't ever give kisses, do I? Here, let's do this. We're gonna get rid of that stupid track. I don't like half of this stuff, man. Did I ever tell you guys that I don't like half the music I play on here? I like this track. No, y'all, sweet dreams. Americanos.
Oh no.